Television correspondent who's now a stay-at-home dad who never runs short of material to write about. Next, some helpful advice to help us overcome self-defeating behavior when New Morning continues. Welcome back. My next guest says fear and self-doubt keep us from living our lives to the fullest. She's the author of Sanity Savers, Tips for Women to Live a Balanced Life. And today she's here to help us get out of our own way. Please welcome Dr. Dale Atkins.
Hi,
Well, don't get out of our way. We want you to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So how can we get out of our own way? Because sometimes we're our own worst enemies.
Sometimes we are our own worst enemies. And, you know, you don't really work well with enemies, you fight your enemies. So what you want to do is you want to change yourself from being your enemy to becoming your ally. And I think one of the ways to do that is to understand that sometimes we have a voice in our head that
that thing,
that
huh?
thing, that little
that's
thing
always
that's kind of there.
chattering.
And sometimes it doesn't say the most encouraging or the most wonderful things to us, and we listen to it and we think it's true. And I think there has to be a balance with figuring out what's real, you know, what's the reality check, and what is really encouraging and helpful. And I call this self-talk. You have to be able to talk to yourself in a way that will help you get to where you want to be and help you get out of your own way, not keep you in those patterns that are very often destructive and very often keep you going around in the same circle over and over again. You know, people say, well, why am I having the same relationship over and over again with a different person? Or why am I finding myself in the same job that's a dead-end job? And I say, well, what do you think about this? You know, what do you tell yourself? Well, I don't think I can really be in a really great relationship, or I don't think I can get this job. Well, what would happen if you said, I do think I can get this job, I need a bit more training, and this is what I need to do to get myself to the position where I can be a viable candidate for this job, or I do deserve somebody in my life who's going to treat me well, and this is what I'm going to do the next time a person says this to me. I am going to say, you know, that's actually not the way I see it, or that's not good for me, or I don't think that conversation is helpful for me, and move ahead and move forward with a voice in your head that is really confident and encouraging and kind of like your own personal cheerleader. You know, what would your best friend, coach, / best teacher, wonderful, encouraging person say to you in this situation? Probably not, you'll never do it, or you're terrible, right?
Probably not.
Probably, I know you can do it, I think you're terrific, I know you have the skills you need. These are the kinds of encouraging talk that we have to put in our own heads, because sometimes we were raised in situations where the people around us, for whatever their own reasons, they just couldn't do it. They couldn't give it to us in the way we needed it. So we have to change that. And as adults, we're able to do that.
So how we talk to ourselves has a huge effect on the outcome.
Absolutely. How we talk to ourselves, our self-talk, has an enormous influence on us and a huge impact on the outcome. And the outcome, you have to decide, what do you really want? You know, I know someone who's in the process of thinking about having a surgery. Now, she doesn't want to have the surgery. So what do you think? Every time she's about to have the surgery, she gets sick. And she says, I'll never do well in this surgery. I just know I'm not going to make it through the surgery. So sure enough, she gets sick every time she's going to have the surgery. Now, she needs the surgery. So instead, she needs to say to herself, I know the surgery is going to be difficult, but it will get me to the other end, which is where I need to be, and I'll be healthy. And I have to take care of myself, and I can walk into this surgery feeling good, visualizing myself well on the other side, and really feeling confident and comfortable that I will be healthy. These kinds of encouraging words affect the outcome of a situation. And I also believe that people need to visualize. They need to visualize themselves in situations that they want to see themselves in.
What if your self-talk, you know, is positive, but
Yes.
it's not so real? And I'm thinking of those guys on American Idol. It's one of my favorite reality shows. But I mean, there are people on there who they
Can't
really,
sing.
yeah, they can't sing, but they really believe they can, and they probably have that voice that says, "You're going to be a star." And I'm looking at them going, "I don't think so." I mean, so what about those?
Simon's also saying, "I don't
and
think
Simon's
so."
saying, "Yeah."
Well, I think what happens is there has to be a person in your life, or maybe two or three, who have your best interests at heart and who are objective and who don't have their own agenda in place, and to whom you can say, "What do you think? Do you think I really have a voice that I could cultivate and maybe really make it on this great show?" And maybe they could say to you, with a little bit of training, yes, or "I don't think so, but I'm not going to stand in your way. You should try whatever you think you'd like to try, but understand that you may not make it because your voice may not be opera quality or rock and roll quality. But why not try it?" But you do have to have somebody in your life whom you can trust and who has your best interests at heart and who doesn't have their own agenda. And those are three very important elements, because other people's agendas, sometimes people are jealous, sometimes they just didn't get their own life in order, so they don't want you to get yours. That's right.
But sometimes your friends and family even will put their own opinions on you, and you start to believe it.
Well, very often they do, and that's often, Timberly, where we get our self-image and our sense of ourself from other people who we trust, other people who probably have our own self-image and our own self-interests in their heart, but I'm not sure that they're really out there with their own stuff. They put their stuff on us. And that's very difficult, because as children we believe what our parents and our friends and family say to us. So as adults we have to say, wait a minute, this actually isn't true.
Give us a couple of tips before we go on how we can overcome self-defeating behavior.
Well, first of all, when you have those thoughts in your mind that are other people's voices and they've kind of become yours, you say, "Not good, negative thought, not useful, I'm going to replace it with something that is positive." And you reword that which you need to go forward. That's one. The other is to believe, to have the attitude that you really can change your life and bring your life to a place where you're not your enemy, but that you are your ally. And the third point that I think is really important is to believe that life is a journey. You have a lot of ways to go, and you can change the direction of your life, and that you can do it in such a way that you really can become the person not only that you want to be, but you can get over self-defeating attitudes, self-defeating words, self-defeating thoughts, and you can create the life that you want to live for yourself.
I love it. I love it.
It works.
Yeah, and it works, right? Great tips.
Thank
you so much for being with us. We'll see you again.
Look forward to it.
Next, we'll discover the thrill of the rocky road, and I don't mean ice cream, when New Morning continues. Welcome back. Have you ever found yourself working hard and getting nowhere? Well, instead of saying we can't do something, our good friend Joan Borosenko believes what we need is a little break and a fresh perspective.
Did you ever have one of those kinds of days where you feel like, I've got a huge pile of stuff, like a big pile of wood to cut, big pile of reports to do, big pile of housework, and yet you feel like your axe is dull. You're flying in 100 different directions at once, and you just can't find your center. That center I think of as a kind of mind, body, spirit sweet spot out of which your best work comes. I often think of a story I know about a woodcutter. He had an axe a lot like this one. Dull, blade needed to be sharpened. And a stranger came up to him and said, you know, if you just stop working and take time to sharpen that blade, everything would go so much more smoothly. And the woodcutter was frantic. He said, forget it. I don't have time to stop and sharpen my blade. I've got things to do. I've got a family to support. And he just kept on keeping on. Things were not going well. Sometimes when I'm sitting at my computer, I remember the story of that woodcutter. And I say to myself, Joan, you might be busy, but if you take 5 minutes and you just get up and you do some stretches, or you take 10 minutes and go out and take a walk, or if you take 2 minutes and just close your eyes and do some breathing, you'll come into your center, your blade will be sharp, and the rest of the work will just flow. So remember, next time you're having a really busy day, take the time and sharpen your blade.
Thanks, Joan. Even though she now calls Colorado home, Joan was the co-founder of the Mind-Body program at the Harvard Medical School. Taking on a physical challenge is a good way to stop telling yourself what you can't do and find out what you're really made of. And there's no better place to do it than at a rock climbing business called Nelson Rocks Preserve in Riverton, West Virginia. It's owned by Stuart Hammett and his wife, Lavon, who based it on those guided mountain routes in Europe called the Via Ferratas.
This is one of the two big rock formations that are located on our property. When I brought my family here in 1993, we were all just amazed that this was privately owned. The next year I had a serious climbing accident. I had to use braces on my legs, but the accident had changed my perspective. I needed to be at home with my family and not working 60 hours a week at the law firm. The property came on the market and I saw it as an opportunity to create maybe a climbers resort of some kind that would allow us to relocate to West Virginia. Just 2 weeks after we went to settlement on the property was when my 8-year-old son died of a rare heart ailment. I went to wake him up and he was gone. As time went by, I wanted to create a preserve that would be a memorial to my father and my son.
Coming out here and building the cabins and then building the Via Ferrata was his way of coping with his grief. All right, who goes first? Brian.
Via Ferrata is designed for non-climbers. It uses a fixed cable that the climbers are clipped to. It uses steel rungs where they're needed to keep the climbing relatively easy. It's a real full mind and body workout. What's the status of the party of 5?
Yeah, I can just see him coming through the notch now, and I expect to see him here in a few minutes.
I would require a 200-foot long swinging bridge that would be over 150 feet in the air.
Sometimes I get to be the lifeguard at the swinging bridge.
Oh my God.
People's reactions are always different.
Come on, man. You gotta keep going. Kind of scary a little bit at first, but after a while you really get used to it and you don't even feel like you're 200, 300 feet in the air.
To see people overcome their fears, well, we all have to do that.
I spent a lot of time alone up on the mountain, and that really helped me through the grief that I was going through. It affects me very deeply. I feel some connectedness with the world and the incredible nature of life on this planet.
It became a healing place for us.
It's tremendously rewarding. People come down grinning ear to ear.
Amazing. It's amazing that we got to the bridge, let alone this high. You know, I didn't think I could do this thing, but it's definitely amazing what you can do as long as you just take it one step at a time, you know?
I miss climbing, but that time for me is past now. Losing a child is a blow you can never really recover from, but in time,